I always say Silicon Valley thinks it's a meritocracy when it's a mirrorocracy. They hire people like themselves, or people become like them in order to fit in. And I think the question is, do you want to, if they're rethinking everything, like car driving or healthcare or everything else, why don't they rethink how a workforce is made and how you create a workforce? When people ask me how to solve sexism in Silicon Valley, I'm like, hire more women. That would work. Have more women on boards. Have more women present at all levels of the company, including in engineering, which I think is the heart of Silicon Valley. And it's not an easy problem. And I think people immediately say, oh, it's so hard, it's so hard. But I think what is harder is creating innovative work environments that aren't diverse. I think it creates probably negative value in these companies eventually. I have 2 boys, and so I think a lot about it. I think they're bros. They really are. They love lacrosse. They're very mannish. It's funny because literally we're a lesbian couple, and I literally have the straightest, whitest young men on the planet, and they're just like sometimes so obtuse. But one of the things I do is we talk a lot about these issues. We don't hide them. We're not trying to push it upon them, but we want to make them aware and educated. And so just the other day, I was talking to my son about words around women, that women are either seen as weak or they're too aggressive, and why is that? And he kept saying, well, I don't think that way. And I said, but other people do. Why do you imagine that they think that way? Have you ever noticed that that either women are seen as wily or they're seen as, the word feminine? Feminine is a negative term when it's widely used, even if it's not a negative term by itself. And so we started talking about that. And I said, when do you see the word feminine used in a positive way? And he couldn't think of one. And I said, see? And he kept saying, well, I don't think that way. And I said, yeah, but you're not the center of the friggin' universe. Like, think about why it's used and why people do it. So I spent a lot of time challenging them to think harder. And if they are going to have a point of view, they better be able to defend it. What's happening in the United States is everybody feels like they can say now whatever they want because the President of the United States just literally he's just a sewage dump that comes out of his mouth every day. And so people feel like that's okay. Well, it's not okay, but he's not paying the price for it. He gets to be president. And so that's the problem, is that he's allowed to do that. And so everybody feels empowered to do that, when in fact, it's not the way we should behave in civil society. And it's not okay to say whatever you want. And the First Amendment doesn't mean that you're not going to pay a price for what you're saying. You can certainly say it or have those opinions. You just can't necessarily benefit. And unfortunately, the messages from our leaders are not that.